So I'll just give a quick introduction about myself, who I am, and then I'll bring in on the panelist. And hopefully we will take you through a journey of what it means to be an entrepreneur, the good, the bad, the ugly, the really ugly, and make sure that you learn something from this. So quick background, I am, other than my background back as a paratrooper, Indian Army officer, I have been in a tech world for a long time, and I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Aquila Labs. I am basically just the executor of the vision that was started by the founder. Happens to be my wife. I have married really, really up there. So trust me, ex-NDA marrying somebody with a PhD doesn't happen every day. So I've lucked out. She's the founder. It's her vision. We are an AI startup, and we are building a preventive healthcare platform to keep people healthy using AI. We are right now doing a pilot at Mount Sinai. We've been at this journey for 2.5 years. As you can imagine, there's no money left for our kids. So literally, hopefully their A grades will take them through. They're Indian kids, so I think they'll manage themselves. So other than that, I think I share a lot of things common with our panelists, and I would like to invite them. And the way this will go down is that each of these panelists will take a few minutes to introduce themselves, and then basically we'll have as a conversation, essentially. So please join me in welcoming the panelists. Please come. So you'll have to share mic between two of you. And anyone who's not nice to me, I'll cut you off. So don't. So just make sure that you are really trying to impress me. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thank you, Prakash. So I'm Ruchika Gupta, CEO of Finantrix Solution. I started my career with being a foreign exchange dealer, and in 2 to 3 years, I moved to a technology. I worked with the product development companies, and I saw a very typical problem which they had which all of you heard, they are not able to use the offshore. Offshore does give a benefit of a cost and a lot of scaling, but offshoring comes with its own challenges too. And in a product development, and especially in a startup to a mid-level of a company, very, very difficult to do offshoring. That was the vision why I started Finantrix. I wanted to help product development companies and the startup companies to really build their vision, what they think, help them to innovate, work with them to build up their minimum viable product, MVP. And that's what my journey of Finantrix has been, as Prakash already mentioned, as challenging as anybody else's. But that's a fun part of it.
Thank you so much.
How's everyone doing today? Great. No, that's so weak. Come on. How is everyone doing? We're Punjabis, right? How is everyone doing today? No, come on, guys. Come on. This is.
I think they're weak Punjabis. Come on, guys.
Or they haven't had enough whiskey. Black Label? One of those, right?
No whiskey today.
Ah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. The wine makes us classy. My name is Deepthi Sharma. I am not a Punjabi. I am born and brought up in Queens, New York. So I'm going to take it a little bit back. Instead of just telling you what I do, where my journey has started from. Community has always been a big part of me. So what that means is when I was in middle school, my middle school curriculum, we had community service as a part of it. And from that moment where I was spending time with kids with disabilities that were having seizures at the age of 3 or 4, I grew up going back to India and always seeing poverty. So to me, it was almost like I was immune to it because I saw it so closely. But when I was sitting in a room filled with kids that were so close to the same socioeconomic background and were born into these disabilities, I felt like, holy shit, I want to do something. I want to do something for them. So my life has always been about how can I give back to my community. But I didn't want to follow the path of what every Indian parent told me to do, which was, beta, doctor, ya engineer ban ja to life achhi hogi, which is 3 Idiots. Yeah, there you go. So I didn't want to follow that path, and I wanted to kind of do something else. I was great at math and science, like you said. We're Indian, so mostly we do well in those subjects. And so when I got to college, I worked in politics. I worked on a number of different campaigns, and I absolutely loved it. From politics, I thought my next step would be law school, because what do you do to further your education? You go to law school. But I also graduated in 2008. Huh? You make your parents happy, exactly. Or you get married and have kids. It's one of the two. And so for me, I graduated in 2008. In 2008, as you know, was a financial crisis. And I could have, gone to law school, graduated a lot of debt, or I accidentally started my company called Food to Eat. So Food to Eat, what we do today, we are an online ordering platform, a corporate catering concierge service where we partner with immigrants, women, and minority-owned restaurants in New York City. We essentially help them by taking over sales and marketing for their catering side of the business and book catering jobs at large corporations. So for corporations, we do two things. One, we consolidate all of their food ordering. So we work with about 100 different vendors, and we say, hey, come to us, we'll do all of the quality assurance. We'll make sure this vendor can actually cater for 500 people, that they can get a certificate of insurance. But what we'll also help you do is look at diversity and inclusion. Most corporations, when they think about diversity and inclusion, they say, we'll hire some women and people of color and we're done. Mic drop, we've done it all, we've got a lot of diversity. And to me, diversity and inclusion is very different. Diversity is being asked to the dance, while inclusion is actually being asked to dance while you're there. And so you've hired these people, now what? Food and beverage is one of those things, people always say, like, it's okay, we'll just order from the same place. And I'm not going to name the usual Indian suspects, Indian restaurants, so everyone always orders for their weddings. But I've gone to the same weddings, and the same food is always served. I didn't say it. But with that being said, we want to provide diversity and inclusion. You've hired these people, now be representative of who they are and where they're from and their cuisines of food. And so we're educating these corporations that there's Nigerian food, there is Indian food, and Indian food isn't just curry, Indian food is beyond that. So with that being said, I started Food to Eat as one of my companies. I do have a second company in the space, and I won't bore you with that, but it goes back to my love for community and wanting to service my community. And when I saw that these small businesses needed help, not everybody can be the Bukhara Grill, right? And that's why Bukhara Grill is so lucky to be where it is. But not everyone can be there. So how can we help represent these mom and pop shops to be able to now service 500 people at a time at companies like Warby Parker and Microsoft? So we help build those relationships.
Thank you so much, Aseem.
Hi, Aseem Bakshi. I am actually a Punjabi, though. I've been to
In
Jalandhar
name only. Trust me, he's not.
Apparently we're a minority
He's
in the
not.
room.
I thought I was going to get a pass at least in the intro.
No,
Prakash. So I've been to Jalandhar once. My parents are from there. So yeah, I'm out. I know, I'm out.
Punjabi, that's it.
So I followed the classic sort of like path. I went to engineering school. I was a software programmer. I did an MBA. You could not follow the path more than I actually followed. Interestingly enough, it was over my parents' objections. They wanted me to do something else. So I was writing software in my 8th grade. In '91, I started working for Philips. And that became my long-term romance with the Netherlands. No, it's not for the pot, Prakash.
I didn't say that. It's his guilt speaking, so.
So I've been to the Netherlands many, many times. We just opened a sales office in the Netherlands just because I know a lot of people there. I started my startup. This is my second startup. I started in October 2015, so it's been a while now at this stage. And I started the startup because I was a guy who was running R&D for many technology companies, and I kept wanting to push my products into production, and it never would happen because they would break. So if you've ever been in technology, or if you ever used a website for anybody who builds technology, one of the major problems that happens is you try it and it doesn't work. So it seems like a really obvious and simple problem. If you're actually in technology, you'd sort of like go, no, it's not that obvious and it's not that easy. So I actually quit my job out of frustration that, I just could not make it work. So I quit and founded a company to solve this problem. So for the last 4 years, we've built what's called an AI QA platform, where we basically guarantee that if we get a version of software that anybody builds, We will basically test it, and we'll create the test cases, we'll execute them, we'll give them the results, and we'll say, here's your bugs, go fix them. Here's a video. It's a real bug, go fix it. It seems like a really, really, really simple solution, which is the way that we've created it. There's a tremendous amount of technology underneath, and I'm proud about the fact that so far we've been granted 3 patents. We have 7 more that are in queue. We're being resold by a large IT services company called Tech Mahindra. We're about to be resold by Accenture. So in the life cycle of a startup, which is sort of what we're talking about today, we're sort of like halfway there. Have product, have customers, have references, have no sales force, way too techie geeky, need to scale. So if you want to talk about startups up until that point in time, I can talk till I'm blue in the face. That's sort of where we've reached today. And I'm really looking forward to the panel because there's a lot of people with a lot of backgrounds. And hopefully something will come out that you guys can use. One of my key theses here from a startup perspective, anybody who thinks that a startup is, I have an idea, I write it on a piece of paper, I get funded. Yeah, I have yet to meet a startup founder that actually did that.
Probably Ramit did that. So
No. So it seems like I'm the only real Punjabi on the panel now.
I get this twice.
So I speak Punjabi very well. You know, my nanke are from Jalandhar. You know, something in common with the scene, and you know.
I was posted in Jalandhar, guys. It supersedes everything. Again, that requires a few more pegs of Patiala. So go ahead, Ramit, sorry.
Yeah, so, you know, similar to Deepthi, my brother and I, we started our company in 2008, 6 months before the Lehman crisis. And our hypothesis was that, you know, there's a huge gap in small business lending. A lot of the large banks are not focused on lending to small businesses for loans less than $1 million. And there's a huge gap in the marketplace, you know. So we started out the company, we started as an intermediary, and then 5 years later, we were approached by credit funds, hedge funds, who wanted to give us money to utilize our technology and wanted us to lend the money, you know, directly. So now we have done close to about $3 billion in funding through a platform to about 10,000 small businesses. We have about 400 employees, and you know, we are growing very quickly. We are doubling our revenue every year. And what we are seeing is that as banks moved away from lending to small businesses after the financial crisis, that really helped us to grow our business. And I think the most important point of our story is that we stuck around. We struggled for the first 3-4 years, and then once we were there in the market, we had people approaching us, and you know, based on our presence, we were able to scale up the business and grow to where we are today.
Thank you so much. So one thing entrepreneurs are not good at is following instruction from the panel host to keep everything within 2 minutes. So that's what, if you are not following orders, I think that is a good quality for you to be an entrepreneur. I think, so that was a very roundabout way of telling them that they should keep time when I tell them, but that's the whole point, is that entrepreneurs, we have to be a little indisciplined. So that's...
We're right here.
Exactly. I didn't follow orders either, guys. So that's what that's the. So I think that's an interesting point. So one of the things that I want to hear from all of you is how to get started, right? Obviously, you guys have all touched upon how you built your businesses, but it all started from you figuring out that there was something lacking in the market, or there was a certain part of the community that was not being served. So what do you think ideation means for you guys? So who wants to take?
Where do you start, right? So for me, my company started because I was standing online at a food truck, and I waited for 30 minutes. I'm a New Yorker. I'm also Indian, so we're naturally impatient. We don't like waiting on lines for more than 5 minutes. You're like, "Arey yaar, I have to go somewhere else, and it's probably better there." So I waited. I'm not recording. Yeah, exactly. I'm more important than this shit. Yes, exactly. So I waited for 30 minutes and I got a cookie, and it was one of the first times in my life that I actually waited on a line. And it was at a food truck, and at that time, food trucks were becoming more and more popular. And so I thought, there's got to be a better way to access this food truck. Why can't I create something where I can just order online, skip, pay, leave? I don't have to have cash because, I'm a millennial and we don't like carrying cash. We like to just pay people.
Oh, you're
digitally.
poor.
Yeah, we're poor. We don't actually know how much money we have. But with that being said, it was one of those moments where I was like, let me talk to the people that I think there's a problem that I'm addressing for. So I started talking to a bunch of food truck and cart owners, and from there I realized a lot of them didn't see themselves as small business owners, right? They saw themselves as, this is a job, it pays the bills, it's gonna help me pay for college for my kids, and during the winter they get second jobs because in the winter nobody goes to a food truck. And I was like, well, this is crazy. How can I help you grow and scale? How can I actually make you realize that your falafel is different from the next guy, and you should market that? Stop using the same stock images. Stop, actually think about yourself as a small business owner, because you are. And market to the people so that you're not waiting for someone to show up. Put something on Twitter, have a Facebook page, have something. And so my business really started from that moment where it was like, how can I help the food community that I saw as people that look like me, right? They're immigrants, they're people of color. I was first generation. Their kids were coming and talking to me when I was asking all these questions in English, because I don't speak every brown language that exists. So I really started from there and was really like, well, how can I solve this problem for them? So we started off as an online ordering platform, the first that actually created a platform where you can order from a food truck. And we slowly pivoted into the catering model because we saw that was a bigger opportunity and we were instantly profitable. And it was more profit for our end users, which was the restaurants and the food trucks we were working for. So the idea for me was, I had a problem. Instead of just starting a company, I went and talked to them and created a platform for the problem that they actually wanted solved, which was more catering business.
So actually, she used a term called pivot. That's actually a very important term. Pivot is nothing, but it shows is evolution of you as an entrepreneur. It is not a change in plan. It is not you dropping your initial idea, because ideas are very important, but what is more important is how flexible you are. And that's another one of those soft skills that you need to build as you go along. Because if you are rigid in your thinking, I think that's basically is the is the end of your evolution. So are there any other pivots that you guys can think in your journey that you want to address?
Yeah, I can think of, when we started the company, we were basically acting as an intermediary, connecting banks and non-banks with small businesses. But what we figured out very quickly was that, we cannot scale up the business just being an intermediary, because there were so many inefficiencies in the process and we were dependent on third parties to sort of fulfill or execute on the funding that small businesses needed, So we decided to sort of become a funder on our own. And that's when, as I would say, we were open to opportunities. We were approached by a hedge fund. They said, can you take our money and lend it to small businesses? And we said, yeah, we are ready for that, So we got that done within a month. We got all the regulatory approvals very quickly. And that's how we figured out that, being open to opportunities is very important. And that really helped us scale our business. So
Asim, can you think of, say, pivot in terms of how you use, say, the technology or the way you solve a problem, right? It doesn't have to be always about just pivoting from one business idea or, finding a different user segment. So is there anything in your, that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So the central thesis of what we're trying to do, which is test software and give results in unbelievably fast time periods, remains the same. But we pivoted into AI about a year and a half ago. Before that, I kept looking at it. I'm a master's in computer science, so I actually have done courses on it. And although the marketing hype was tremendous, the actual reality was negligible. So we're first solving the problem that we did. But the technological pivot that we did was we were already a cloud testing platform. We were already executing. But when we started doing AI, we're partnered with Colombia. We're setting up an AI center in Serbia, of all places. So it was, for the company, it was a structural pivot, because here's a company that was really built with a bunch of developers and testers. And now we're talking like AI and data science. If structurally you think about a company, that's a hard shift. to manage when you suddenly just take off in a different direction and start integrating that into the organization.
And it's also just like realizing what your market needs, right? Like you realize that like your market is not, this was not the best way to do it. This is a smarter way to do it. And
It was actually all margin for us. It's like we went from being profitable to being hugely profitable.
Yeah, and for us too, that's what we looked at. It was like, I'm making, as a consumer business, so I started the business in 2011. And just to like get really real, like, and talking about how to support a community, when I started as a woman of color, less than 2% of startups are funded, are women funded, right? So women aren't getting the money. And now if you put into perspective as a brown woman, it's even less. That's today. So in 2011, it was even worse. So if in 2011 I started off as a consumer business, nobody was giving me money. Everybody was asking me, when are you gonna have kids? And that's a really, like, just to put that in perspective, that's just a fucked up question, right? Like nobody should be asking me that because first of all, she shouldn't be asking me that, he shouldn't be asking my husband. Like, it's up to me when I decide to do that, and it has nothing to do with my business. As a woman, I get these kinds of questions all the time. And so for me, I had to think about, well, if I want to still continue to help supporting these amazing businesses that I started the business for, what else can I do? What can help me be self-sufficient and continue to run my business? So catering, we know is hugely profitable for any restaurant. So I was like, okay, great. Let me go into that. Let me help build that network for them. And I know they need it. And so that's what I thought about was profitability also. Like, it was just like, I'm not making enough. I'm not going to grow fast enough. And this isn't the kind of business I want to do. I don't want just like some random, I want to make money. I want to be rich too, right? I want to make them rich and I want to be rich.
So that's two pivots. One's business, one's margin. Another pivot that you sit and talk about is go to market, right? Are you going to be a US company? Are you going to be a worldwide company? It's a radically different strategy. Are you going to be partnering? Are you going to be trying to do digital? Those are all, you still have the same vision of what you're trying to do.
But in which perspective you want to
right. And, you know, for a startup, most of the time it's like, try, damn. Try, oh God, that sucked. Okay, that one worked. And you keep moving forward. And if you don't fail, and you don't drop 10,000, 15,000 on a remarkably dumb idea, you're simply not going to innovate because you just have to do that. If people knew how to do what we're trying to do, then it would be easy, right? So, and people say fail fast, but what does that really mean? Put on your rhino armor and wait for the, you know, I tried this, oh God, that was terrible feeling. You know, when you wake up in the morning, you go, yeah, no, not again. Right? I mean,
that was when he was in Serbia. That's how. So I just wanted to one point is when somebody asks you that, you should ask them back, why did you have kids? So I think. So and yeah, so my point. Ruchika, I'm sure like being an IT outsourcer, the tendency would be for you to go and get a big customer, right? A big whale. But you decided, I think that's part of your pivot, is to cater to startups and be part of their product, building experience, right?
That is correct. And I really love building the product and innovation which comes. And for me, the Fanatrix was not a money making and I want to make money. It was more like the passion which I have to build up in a product to solve a business problem. With Fanatrix, so from a business model perspective, initially when it started, it was more like typical IT services model in terms of an ODC and a T&M. Over time, a lot of my models has changed where we are investing in startups, where it's not money, it's more like really partnered with them to take them together. So it's not, it's very different. So absolutely, like one has to change and innovate on each and every level.
So one thing, so obviously we talked about ideation, we talked about how to keep ideating, right? How to keep innovating. But, somewhere the buck stops. And somewhere you have to go start thinking of, investment funding. So I want to start with the ladies first because as Deepti has already mentioned that it is not easy for women to raise funds, especially women of color. So why don't you put some more color on the fact that, so that's my play on words. Yeah, so.
Prakash, what is your pivot? You didn't mention anything about
Oh, I was perfect from day one. Exactly. I was married to the right woman, so see, I have my sidekick with me, so no, actually, there were a lot of pivots. So the pivot is actually the way we kept on upping the problem that we wanted to solve. That we said is that when we started, it was about using AI to keep people, fit, and it was a, smaller problem that we wanted to solve. But as we got deeper into what the technology could do, what is the scale of the problem that we were trying to solve, what we realized is that we had to up the ante, that we have to go deeper, and that was our pivot, is that instead of being someone who is just thinking, okay, I've not done this, let me go change something, we had to dig deeper. So sometimes it is that you pivot to being more defiant. So it works that way. But we have changed a lot in terms of technology itself, right? The underlying problem is so huge. Diabetes is a worldwide problem. So we couldn't just give up that problem area itself. So that was basically our pivot. I don't think so it was a great answer, but, No, she's not. She's the one who does the actual work. I'm the one who goes around. No, so she's the brains, I'm the beauty. Yes. I also do the dishes in the evening, guys, so come on. I will do the dishes, trust me.
Sometimes.
No, all time, every day.
What exactly Ruchika's company do? We don't understand. What does your company do?
Why don't you tell her?
So I have we have a IT. It's more same like IT services company, but very specialized in the helping the product development company. So when you're having an application technology company, when you're building up a software for application or product perspective, it's entirely different. So where we are focused is helping to build a product development company. We have our engineers, QA engineers, as well as software engineers, development engineers in India. So we have a huge number of team, 90 plus people in India and rest in US. And we have work.
I hope in Punjab.
It's in Noida.
Apologies for this gentleman.
No, it's okay. We So I think we still have not addressed the issue of funding. I think we need to talk about that. So one of the things, so based on your experience, Deepti, what could have happened that would have made a difference? Is it a problem of network? Is it a problem of access? What is it that you were not just in front of the right people? What was your source of frustration?
I was in front of the right people. It was those people not having faith in the fact that this young woman had it in her to be able to build, right? So I had a lot of people that were like, oh, is this a project? And it's like, no, it's not a project. It's a company. I've started. We have revenue. We have things. I have employees. Like, it was breaking people out of the mold of what they think, what they've been conditioned to believe what a business owner looks like. A business owner isn't a middle-aged man who's 40, 50, 60 years old with a big belly making a ton of money. A business owner looks like me. Yeah. I'm just painting a picture.
You shouldn't say that in a Punjabi audience.
So it is 20 years of a lot of pegs of Patiala. So.
I mean, I can take any of you guys down. No, but it really is changing the mindset of what people are conditioned to believe.
So I want to challenge you on that.
Yeah.
Not about the pot bellies. That's a given. My challenge is that when I speak of network, were you going to the Indian community to raise funding, or you were going to VCs, or you going to angel investors? Who were your investors that said no to you?
I was going to angel investors. I was going to VCs.
Were they all Indians, or were they Americans?
No, I was going to Thai. I was going to everyone. Anyone that would take a business meeting with me or conversation with me, I was going everywhere. I was at Thai. So if you talk about Indian community, I was being turned down by them as well.
So the point I'm trying to make here is actually what she brings up is a very important point. Is where you start in a network really makes a difference. I mean, even for us, it has taken years to break into the network where we are at a stage where we can actually get in front of a family office or an investor who can look at us rather than their kind of minions who kind of stop you, right? That is the problem, is that there are a lot of people ahead, who are protecting the investors who make this problem. I think Ramit can address that problem, I'm sure.
No, what I have seen in my experience, when we raised our Series A financing, I went to a conference in the Bay Area, and I met someone, he connected me with a VC. And that VC, they didn't end up investing, but they connected me with someone else, And that's how we raised our Series A investment from a well-known Bay Area VC firm, So I would say you always have to keep hustling. You always have to, just meeting people. And that's how you sort of build your connections. It doesn't happen in a day. It'll take some time. And we raised our first round 3 years after we started, And then I think then you just keep meeting people by chance, And there are people who want to help you out. I think you just have to be ready to accept those opportunities as they come along.
So
This is my suggestion. I do commercial loans. So sometimes you got to come across as a team, not as a soul, not as an individual. Because individual can fall sick, individual can, exit. So Ramit, he has a brother, right?
Yeah.
Of course. So maybe what you need to do is come as a team.
So actually, that's a
do
good
have a
point.
team.
So
I
let
do
me
have a team.
So let me ask you: how do you build a team? I think so. So the question is that we are not all lucky to be married to the right person.
Can I add on the financing?
Yeah.
So this is my second startup. Last time around, we hit 50 family offices, VCs, etc., and we got the term sheet. And the hustle is incredibly important for anybody doing it. You went for a meeting and you got funded instantly. Doesn't happen. It's literally a full-time job. Having said that, it doesn't actually end there, because when you get the term sheet, if you're not careful, you'll lose your company instantly the second you sign. So the first time the term sheet we got was we were valued at 9 million. We raised 8 million. And so you can pretty much calculate 45% of the company was gone on Series A. Do you want to take that deal? As a startup, you want to take that deal, right? But you really have to think about whether you really want to take that deal, because if you get diluted that badly, fairly soon you're going to start wondering where you're going, because by the Series B you're going to be out of control, and by the Series C you may not be with the company. So those are incredibly important decisions that you're going to have to think through. It's not just hustling to get the term sheet, but it's actually thinking through what are the ramifications of the term sheet. So, sorry.
Yeah, and sorry, I just want to add. So it's great to hear about your experiences, and just to the numbers that I gave earlier are real. They're still happening today. So women that have teams, don't have teams, this is just the reality of the industry. I'm networking. I'm on a Forbes 30 under 30 list. I have a lot of credibility that I've built up, but I have to do 10 times the work that most men have to do. And you add that color factor in. I didn't go to an Ivy League school. I don't have corporate background experience. I came out of college, I worked in politics, and then I started a company. Most men don't get asked those questions. Have you ever been asked who's watching your children? Or no, you haven't. Have you ever been asked when are you going to have kids? Or nobody ever asks that. Everyone always asks me, oh, who are the kids with? Why is that important? They're with my husband, as he should be. It takes 2 people to make a kid. It takes 2 to parent. So these are facts. It doesn't matter. If a man was going by himself to fund, and why do I have to go with somebody else? Why am I not enough? If I fall sick, or if my kid falls, I will. Yes, founders make a difference. I know that. But also, most men don't have to go through the shit that I have to deal with. So with that being said, if we want to talk about being a community, we shouldn't ask those questions. We're just conditioned to think that. And these are the facts. Less than 2% of VC money goes to women. Black women, you can count. There's 30 companies up until earlier this year that were black women funded for $1 million. That's pathetic. So we can change that. We can fund more women in our own community. We should have more women here. We don't have more women. The majority is men in this room. But I love the fact that we have 2 women on this panel. So that means there is some change that's happening within our community. We just need to push more for it.
So I want to ask one.
Yeah, Prakash, just one thing. So I just want to add to what Deepti said. I think the best insurance to having investors, attract investors to your business is to build a solid business. I think then you don't need to chase them. They will come regardless of whether you're
Exactly,
a man
and that's
or a
what I
woman,
did. I was like, I want to build a profitable business
Yeah.
and so I stopped. That's why I changed, right? I thought about my margins. I was like, if I build a successful business, I don't have to count on anybody else. I do it myself.
Yeah.
You pivot, exactly.
So I want to ask one thing. What has been your experience actually dealing with women investors?
I frankly haven't dealt with a lot of women investors until now. For my second company, we're dealing with them, and they ask the right questions. They don't just throw money at us, but they're asking us the same questions, but they're actually listening to us as opposed to just like saying no right away. They're not just looking at our deck, they take a call at least. So I am seeing the difference where a woman investor, when most men would just say no off the deck, they'll at least take the call and they'll give us a chance to defend what we're doing and how we're doing it. So for my second company, it's been a huge change because it's a software company. And so it's a huge change to see how we're being responded to.
Okay, that's so I think so that's being the challenge of. By the way, one point I wanted to make: they just assume that we are bad fathers when we are raising. So that's the reason they don't ask us how we're taking care of our kids. So. See,
It's still not okay. But you're not getting out of this. You should just stop while you're ahead.
See.
Yeah, keep doing the dishes.
So.
Small question to ask.
Yeah.
You seem to be frustrated or aggravated with the point that women are not investing with women.
No, I'm not frustrated by women.
Like,
I'm frustrated with men.
No, what I'm saying is that you feel that there's not much community among our community of women, of Indians, where women would walk up to you and say, okay, if you have this project, give me the details, I want to invest money with you. Have you ever had a situation where a VC or particularly a woman you've approached a certain woman and she's come back to you and she said, yes, I want to invest money with you, but then you have, because anytime a person invests money with you, he or she wants a certain amount of percentage of their investment back.
Right.
Have you ever said no to somebody based on that rate of return of your investment? Let's say you say, okay, I give you 10%. And a woman says, no, I want 15%.
Right.
Have you ever?
Yeah, I mean that's like you were talking about the term sheet, right? Like of course, like I will not take terms that aren't fair to me. I won't just take the money because it's there. I want to take something that's going to be good for my business, and I'm sure you can answer the same question, but you were saying this earlier in your first business. The terms are really important because it's a matter of how much of the business you still own and how much of that success as it grows, or how much control, right? So one of the reasons for our second business, we're going to seed investors and angels as opposed to VCs, because VCs usually come in and take more control of the business. Whereas in the ideation, we're in year 2 of the business. I want to be able to put my ideas and not have it controlled by somebody or say that the growth has to be X% in X number of years. So yes, I have said no, and it doesn't have to be a woman or man. And I have no frustration with women investors. It's just just in general, it's more about, like I do look at terms and that's essential.
I think one other piece that I would add on, and this is slightly away from the investment topic, is how important advisors are, whatever the gender, et cetera, for the background. We've been incredibly fortunate that we've managed to put a panel of advisors together that have compensated for, I don't want to give him an opening, but basically weaknesses in the team, because we're a tech company, right? So sales and marketing and things like that weren't our strengths. And so we've been really lucky that we've been able to attract a group of advisors into the company and really allow the direction of the company to be taken, because we have the potential to scale tremendously. The only thing limiting us actually is our ability to take that forward. And you're probably in the same position.
No, I would say that when we were out there raising financing, what I figured out was it's not about being man or a woman. The main thing was that in New York, you have less opportunities compared to, where if you went to the Bay Area, there people I saw in West Coast were more open to give you financing. I think now a lot of things have changed in the last 3-4 years, where there have been a lot of success stories coming out of New York. So you have VCs more open to giving financing, and I've seen more women founders, especially Indian women founders, who are very successful in the Bay Area,
I want to take a pause, actually. I'll let people in the back, if you have any questions. Guys, I know if you have any questions, I just want to make sure that it is just not like the first 2 rows who are engaged with us and everyone else has drifted up checking their WhatsApp messages. So,
More importantly, if anybody wants to bring the beer up front, I'm in. No?
So-
Okay, sorry.
so
you
I-
drank all the beer?
So I just want to take a pause here and talk about something. I know we've talked about technical things like investments and fundraising, advisors, pivot, ideation. I want to address something which is what I call is the emotional intelligence that you need as an entrepreneur. One thing is that you need to develop this kind of thick skin, but you don't become so hard that you're not ready to take in advice. So the question is that how do you build emotional intelligence? I think that's something that I want to talk from your perspective, is that how have you taken setbacks, the letdowns, your mother telling you when will you get a job? I mean, So me telling my mother I do dishes, yes, that's not considered a job. So the question is that I think that's a very important skill to build up because it builds resistance, but it also makes you a little more appreciative of the fact that what you're doing is a little difficult. So I just want to hear from your perspective, what is the emotional intelligence that you need to build up to just keep on going?
I believe you have to have a thick skin. You will have more setbacks, especially initially. Then you will have successes, and but you just have to stick around. That was what me and my brother learned. Like when we started the company, 6 months later, the whole market crashed, and there were no banks that wanted to lend to small businesses. So we didn't know. For 6 months, we didn't make any revenue, and then the market started coming back, and then 2 years later, there were more opportunities where banks wanted to partner with us. Hedge funds wanted to partner with us. Other funds wanted to partner. So I would say that you have to really stick it out. There's no second way about it. You have to be prepared to see people say no to you. I know, Prakash, I was on a panel, interesting story. Prakash was pitching to a panel where I was one of the judges, and this was a show on ZTV. A South Asian version of Shark Tank, and
Trust me, my humiliation is there on the World Wide Web.
and we didn't think that.
Do you have a video recording of this?
Yeah, I think it was broadcast on ZTV, so it should be.
I look good in that, so.
It might be on YouTube, yeah.
Everyone's going to start pulling it up, right?
So the panel didn't think that Prakash's business, even though it was a great idea addressing a huge market, that it would probably go anywhere. But now I'm very happy to hear that Prakash is working with Mount Sinai, and you guys are still sticking it out. And so I think Prakash is a very good example of how to stick out and sort of keep going at it.
Look, I was trained by the Indian Army, so I think I'll stick it out for a long, long time. So.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important for many aspects. And when I talk about a woman, it becomes much more not only the thicker screen, actually how do you learn? Because it's full of, as Dipti was mentioning, it's not only males, there are many alpha males too. How do you deal with them, whether they're your customers, whether they're your vendors, or whether you're anybody? Because the moment dealing with and learning from this and becoming really not let it emotionally hit you is very, very important. I'm sure it's important from a male aspect, but from a female perspective and a woman perspective, they are much more emotional in comparison. And things now become difficult for them. Dealing with it is difficult. They are emotional. Very, very important to keep learning. how do you learn it? How do you learn to deal with the situations, whether it in terms of customers, whether it is in terms of how you are taking up your business, whether it's about building a team. Everywhere where you are as a leader, you really have to learn many aspects on it and just keep growing.
Just to add on to that is like finding your outlet, right? So I feel like a lot of people in our communities forget that mental health is really essential to your well-being. We think just physically we need to be fit and that's it. You know, running is my meditation. I do actual meditation, whether it's therapy or it's alcohol, whatever your meditation is or your outlet is, I think that's really essential. And finding your crew, right? Like, so finding a group of other entrepreneurs that have gone through something similar that you can say, holy shit, I just had a horrible day. How did you get through this? Like, I had this problem. For sales, like for example, now I have a sales mentor that I reach out to and say, like, here's literally the email chain. This guy has been like, you know, messing with me and not actually giving me an answer. What can I say in response? And literally I got an answer within like 5 minutes, which was like, say this, this, and this, and we closed a deal. And so it's like literally surrounding yourself with people that you know that can be there for you and help you push through those moments that you feel like you can't make it through a sale or you need the money to like help you push through whatever it is. But that has been really essential to me, is like finding people that can help support and mentor.
Or you can migrate to a different country if you want to get away from people. So.
Yeah. Or that. Be extra.
So for me, if you wanted to ask me what was my greatest fear, so I'm a techie. My idea of a really, really, really good day involves a keyboard, a computer, and no humans. I'm serious. That's my background. I wrote software in my 8th grade. So lo and behold, 2 years back, we're starting to do well. We picked up Priceline as a customer. Product was in the market. Things were working really well. And I ended up at a trade show, and I was the sales department, and I had to walk into every booth at that trade show and cold introduce myself and pitch the product. For a techie, I mean, I think that will be, out of this particular journey, the hardest battle that I overcame, because literally, walking in, instant rejection. Okay, I mean, I don't know about you guys. Some of you may have a sales background who are really used to this. I'm not used to instant rejection. I'm more used to like somewhat open acceptance, at least hear me out. Instant rejection, and it was like 2 days of that before I finally started figuring out, shut up, don't talk too much, make a really, really, really simple statement, time it right? The reason I'm bringing this up is that in almost the emotional intelligence part of this is that understanding what a salesperson does on a day-to-day basis is actually widely misunderstood, right? Most people sit there and think, they take the customer for a dinner, right? Except if you do the job. I mean, no, you've done it, but it was a real comeuppance for me to try to do that. I had no desire to do it. There was just no choice. And you just end up doing a lot of things like that when you're in a startup where you go, I really don't want to do this, but I have to.
So we've spoken about emotional intelligence. I want to bring out 2 more intelligence that I think entrepreneurs need. One is, I would call as the general intelligence, and we'll just quickly talk about that. It is just the things that you have to do, setting up a company, creating a structure, having a social media presence, doing websites, things that are needed for you to create a presence, right? A name for your company, an identity, all those things. So quickly, how did you guys come up with the naming, identity for your companies? And what is the structure that you have, if you want to quickly disclose?
So the way we came out with the name was that my brother and I, we were sitting in a Chinese restaurant, near Union Square. And that's, we were still in our jobs, and we thought, okay, we have to do something in financial services. And, we were talking to a lot of small business owners and figuring out what the gap is, where we can go. And they said financing is our biggest problem, right now. So we said, okay, Biz to Credit, it's an easy name. And then we tested it out with small businesses, and they said it really resonates. It didn't resonate with a lot of VCs because they said this too is not sexy. And, you have to you really don't, if you want to build a big company, you never put a number, in your name, So I think we sort of went against the grain, but we decided this is the name we want to stick with because it resonated with our customers,
So there's an emotional relationship with your company's name also, right? You are now wedded to the identity. I think that helps us create that bond, right?
So I think maybe Yassine can talk about the structure,
As far as the name went, it was intended to fulfill the vision of something that originally people wanted. There was an idea in testing called automation that was going to solve all the problems, and it spectacularly failed. So we constructed the name with that intent. Having said that, it's probably the thing that we get the most critique over. It's too long, it's too, there's...
Just blame on Netherlands for that.
Well, when you were talking about structuring of companies, so that, when we opened up the Dutch office, which we did last month, then the structure of the company really starts coming into play, right? Because now you no longer have one corporation, you're starting to incorporate in different geographies. And that has its own set of challenges, which you suddenly have to figure out and understand.
But I want to just quickly mention, it's actually very easy to incorporate a company here in Delaware, LLC, or a C Corp, right? $100, right? It is not very difficult. Websites, you can build it for a few hundred. So
and
setting
here's the
up
corollary.
Setting up the companies, ignore the lawyers. So. Bring them in when the money is involved, right? So, so you can do a lot of that yourself. It is very easy to do that. So that's just one thing I wanted to mention quickly.
And it's really not easy to do that in Europe. Getting a bloody bank account is a 2 to 3 month affair, and it's a 2-3 month affair for someone who actually lives there. Not me trying to do it there. Someone actually lived there. A friend of mine runs a company in the Netherlands. He, after 3 years, gave up on trying to get a bank account set up in Paris. Just gave up. They just flat out stopped trying. So it's like to incorporate. It was really weird because you start off with get the packet from, what's the name of the company?
LegalZoom?
Yeah, LegalZoom. Incorporate, bam, you're done. Yeah, that's not Europe, man. It's complete, or woman, sorry. It's completely not easy, and and how you structure the company makes it even harder because there's ownership that you need to think about. There's tax implications that start coming in. There's a lot of people who know a lot more than me about it, but it was, that would be the second least favorite thing after the cold
That's why you
pitching.
should hire somebody.
So that's the.
No, I would say that always, rather than using LegalZoom, I believe, just have a lawyer. Just vet the documents. You can have someone like Gary or Mr. Chaube. When I started the company, I used to go to Gary's office, to get business, and he used to say, if I find a client, I'll refer.
So my Gary is called John, sir. So we'll wrap up very quickly. So there's one thing. I wanted to kind of break this up into 3 components of intelligence. We've spoken about emotional intelligence. What we just spoke about is general intelligence. Everyone has to do that as a entrepreneur. Last, I just want to quickly cover is what I call is domain intelligence. We covered that when we talked about finding the ideation. How do you are an expert, you've understood the problem, that how do you solve it? One thing I want to add is that sometimes domain intelligence actually works against you because you're an expert, you're not willing to change your attitude towards something. So I know you come from a place of expertise, so how did you were able to break from bad habits that you had?
I'm not a software expert. I wrote code. So I actually came from the other side. I was like, why is this so hard? Why doesn't it work? So it was most of the ideation in the company, the way it works out is between me and the 3 co-founders, it'll be, I'll come up with the dumbass idea. We should do this. And everybody's sort of like collective groan.
Yes.
And then they're like, okay, what article did you read? What's the source? Is this a general trend? Is there any technology behind it? But we sort of like keep score. How many of the ideas actually pan out? And a lot of the patents that we have are around ideas that were completely idiotic that actually panned out. That's sort of the way you have to do it.
So we have got like 5 minutes to 2 minutes to wrap up. So we had Yeah, we'll take questions. One last thing I wanted to cover, because this was supposed to be from inception to exit, so I just want to make sure that we cover exit. So what exit means is just probably, in my opinion, it's just another milestone in the journey of your company and you as a founder, right? So just speak to the audience what exit means for you, and I think we'll quickly go through the panel.
No, see, for us, exit for our company, speak as a company, it means creating something of lasting value.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about how much money you make, but you build a really nice product, that would sort of survive generations, and then you have people just using your service or your product, for a longer time.
Excellent. Asim, what would be your quick one-sentence answer for what would be an exit for you?
If someone offers me enough money, there's an exit.
Okay. That was the most Punjabi way of thinking that you just showed.
I would say ditto. For us, exit is either allowing the company to run on its own, where it's just self-sustaining, or thinking about getting acquired and moving on from there.
Ruchika.
No, definitely not selling the company. I do want to bring in somebody who can take that philosophy to a next level.
Excellent. So guys, give them a round of applause. And we'll do some Q&A quickly for about 5-6 minutes, maybe 3-4 questions. So, yes.
Hi, thank you for such insightful information. It's really good to hear your thoughts. Even before you set up a company and exits and all that's comes down late, but when you were probably working in a job and thinking about doing something that was different from your job, how did you, at that point when there's no funding, nothing, from that idea, did you leave your job, start pursuing it, or how did you convince people around you to start working with you? Talk to me about those days, even before everything started.
So, I can't talk about working in a job because I was studying for law school. I'd worked previously, but what I say to everyone when I give any sort of advice, usually it's start it as a side hustle and then allow it to become your main time hustle. So the side hustle allows you to at least understand, is there something here? Are there people that are willing to buy from you? A, B, convincing people. I made the mistake of not selling my mission, which was working on building community for the food community in New York City. Selling on your mission is really essential in convincing other folks. If you haven't worked in the industry or if you haven't started a company before, convincing people based off of your mission is really important, and other stuff you've done. Just because you haven't started a company. I worked in politics. Working on a political campaign is running a company, essentially, right? You have a product and service. You have everyone surrounding. You have communications. You have governance. You have all these things that are surrounded by pushing this one product or service, which is a candidate. So I took those things, and from the money that I did raise, that's how I was convincing people, listen, I was working with XYZ people doing all these things at the age of 22. So if I can do that at this age, I'm pretty sure I can be able to do this. I've convinced them. So for me, that's how I was convincing people. So mission, and then based off of facts of things that I've done in the past.
Yeah, good.
I've done it side hustle. I've done it straightforward. So, I say I've done 2 startups, but I've been trying to do startups for a long time. I just didn't get to the point that I thought it was worthwhile. I'm not sure I agree on the side hustle anymore. You should kind of try to figure it out. But if you don't have enough money for 2 years' salary and to fund an MVP, in my opinion, you're probably not going to make it. So I did the side hustle thing and spent many, many weekends on one product that eventually fell apart. It's this time around, that was the sort of strategy. Once the MVP is done, then you have a choice. If you can get into actually making some money, maybe you won't need to raise and do the seed round, because the seed round's terrible. In seed round, you give up tremendous amounts of equity if you're not careful. So, but that, the central question that someone who's trying to set up a company faces is, how the hell am I going to come up with that much money, right? Which is why the seed round ends up being the way it is. So if you're in a position to be able to save enough money to be able to live for 2 years, and average MVP is going to be what? $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. So okay, you need $250,000, right? Roughly speaking. That would be the best way to do it. If you can't do that, go get seed money.
No, I would say start as a side hustle. Like me and my brother, we started as a side hustle, and then we were lucky that we started making money in the second month, and then we both quit our jobs, after 4 months, and then 6 months later, or 3-4 months later, Lehman happened. So we didn't plan it out, but we left our jobs at that time.
So the moral of the story is there's no right answer.
And it all depends on you as an individual, right? When it comes to side hustle, the other thing is like if you have enough discipline to make sure that those weekends are completely dedicated and you're focusing on it, then yes, continue as side hustle. But I also would not have been able to do that. But I say side hustle because money is also not, it's privilege, right? Not everybody has $250,000, but if you do, then
that's the function of
that's just being practical. Yeah, exactly. That's all I'm saying. It's just being practical.
I think just to add to it, having a skin in a game is very, very important. If you don't have, you might keep working on a weekend for months and months, and you will give up. Okay, what did I lose? Okay, just 40 hours, 50 hours. If you really believe in your concept, Phonetics was 100% self-funded for 1.5 years, 2 years. So it was, now I would strongly suggest save, plan it out, but you have to have a skin in a game in one or the other way, whether money or really commitment.
Okay, jump from the aircraft would be my suggestion. So, any other questions?
I'm in sales myself for almost 20 years. And you both emphasized on the fact that there is rejection. Like you said, you went to 2 days, you just kept going back and forth to booths. I mean, I've been through rejection very seriously, and in my sales profession, it is considered that if you can make a sale to somebody whom you don't know in the first time, you're considered an ace. I sell life insurance. Okay. So and I've been doing it for over 26 years, and I feel that it is rejection and dejection that takes a toll on you. I mean, I've had days when I would pull over on the highway and cry and say, what the am I doing? But I had a mentor in this business, and he just taught me one thing, which still, even today, keeps me going, is anytime a person says no to you, no is next opportunity. Take it like that, live with it, and grow with it. And that's it's always kept me going. And I feel the same thing, what you just said. Rejection does take you down. You have very, very bad days when you don't even want to go home and talk to your kids or talk to your wife. You just want to be left by yourself.
So sales meets engineering. So my question there becomes, why didn't it work? What's wrong with the pitch? How do you need to innovate it when you get over the rejection, right? And that's the process of learning.
So I just want to close one thing after this question is that please offer something on the panel for the people here. What can you do to help them with anything? Just quickly, what can you offer people who want to be entrepreneurs here? I think that is exactly what, let's put our words into action. So I'm willing to help with mentoring, doing anything that helps you create pitch decks, anything, review of technology, how to build digital products. I'm offering that as to anyone who wants to start a business. So go ahead with your question, and then we'll wrap it up with that for each panelist.
Yeah, hello. Actually, we covered the complete breadth of Inception to exit and other thing. I think one very important thing what we missed here is the team building. So when somebody is starting the company, at that time, he's a one person, one idea. Very few people, they say okay, we are a group of people, 6 people or 4 people sitting together, let's come with the idea and then start and all that. Normally, it's a one person. When he starts, he comes with the idea and all that. And after that, my question is, I don't know how you're going to answer this one. This is very difficult. It's a gut feeling that how do you pick a guy next to you? I'm not talking about the employees. Employees going to say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. He's going to pay me end of the month. It's fine. All right. And you cannot even trust that, right? Whether he's saying right or not. But you need somebody at your level, maybe your brother, maybe your friend pick or some other person, or you bring on board. How do you talk to him? How your internal, that hurt comes up, pumps out, say he's the guy, pick him, he's going to help you. It may go wrong also sometime. It works sometime. It's a gut feeling. So what is your take on that? What I really want to know, this is difficult, I know, but just try to tell us your feeling about it, actually.
So it was easy for
Ramit,
me.
answer
Yeah, so
that
I-
first, and then answer what you'll offer, and then answer the question.
No, it was easy for me because, my brother and I, we had always, as kids wanted to start a business together. So,
Have each other's back.
yeah, and we didn't have to look over each other's shoulder, and so it was very easy. So, okay.
What is the thing that you would
So
offer?
if anyone needs help in, raising financing, debt or equity, I'm always available. You can take my business card and reach out to me or over LinkedIn. I'll be very happy to help everyone.
So this round, I was able to attract a couple of people that I've worked with for over 15 years. So even though I have the majority stake in the company, there's two other people who have stakes in the company. And because we've worked together for so long, they're completely used to the fact that I'm going to come up with a brain dead idea. And they're completely used to the fact that they're going to come in and overrule me, even though I'm the CEO, even though I have all the equity, or I have larger share of equity. That's really what the team building piece is. So if you can do it, find people that you've worked in some capacity in the past. That makes it a lot easier because you understand the strengths and weaknesses of the person in a working capacity, even though it's a different situation from where you were working previously.
I have a follow-up question on that. I was talking to somebody, and conversation, I got a kind of his idea. He said that, Ashwani, you know what? I talked to the person, I'll bring him on board with a different idea. If he's me, I don't need him. Because I'm me, myself. If he's the same guy who think like me, who's coming from the same background and all that, I need a different flavor on board. So that was the thing, what you coming from, you're like same group and all that. So how do you say that?
So we were 3 technologists, right? There's no sales and marketing in the company originally, and you've heard me fault the company for that many, many times in my statements, and we're trying to rectify that. I would emphasize that it's more important to have a team and work with people that you trust, and particularly, you said it yourself, particularly people who have no hesitation to say, you're being a dumbass, back off, don't do this. That is incredibly valuable. What can I do for this group? I'm happy to mentor. I can't help with raising funds. Cash broke startup, sorry. I think, yeah, if, I've done this a few times. I'm happy to help in any way that I can, in terms of advice, in terms of guidance, in terms of getting. I'm an engineer at heart, so if you show me something, I'll probably figure out a way to build it. So, and I actually like doing that. It's like I'll go back to the exit question. What would I do if I was to exit? Is the follow-up question. I'd go right back and build another company. I like building stuff.
So just to quickly answer, for me, when it comes to hiring, I was like hiring people that don't do the same. Hiring, it's co-founder, finding people that complement me, right? So similar to what you were saying, like making sure that they're experts in other things. They're smarter than me, because why have someone that has the same exact skill set as you, right? So I think that what you said is really important, and taking your own advice almost. What I can offer. What can I offer? Sales, marketing, branding, partnerships. If you need help thinking through partnerships, it's a really great way to grow sales, and we've been doing that with our sales. It's just thinking of other companies that sell to similar people, and so partnerships is really essential for me.
I would say like a co-founder has to be able to relate to your vision, That'll what will help you guys stick through the tough times, because there's nothing else,
For me, trust is most important. That run really long, because if you don't trust, then there is, even if your complementary skills, nothing work, because you're not talking about a year or 2 years. It's like a marriage, actually. So if you don't have a trust, whatever the other person brings to the table, tomorrow it won't be valuable. What I can do to help, I can help in building MVP. I love helping startups. I personally get involved if need to be from a business domain. So any help which I can do in terms of mentoring, product concept, or building of an MVP, it is really my pleasure.
So why don't you guys give them a round of applause? Oh, okay. Oh, please, go ahead, sorry.
So just building off of the trust answer, all of you guys are very successful. So how do you maintain your success without diluting your morals, ethics, character within your employees as a team, or even within yourselves as the CEOs of your businesses?
Okay, full disclosure, I'm not successful at all. So trust me, I've been trying to do comedy. There's a Canadian who's got a late show host already. So trust me, it is not happening. So go ahead.
So trust, when I meant trust, I meant it trust within the people who are a founder, advisors, and a group of people whom you are taking an advice. As a company grow, politics will come. I will not claim that there won't be any politics or it will always doing the best for the industry. It's business end of the day. Certain aspects can be taken care of in terms of morale. Like one of the goal of a Finantrix, other than the product development, always has been for females. So we have 60 to 70% of the females employ engineering, because in a tech industry we motivate that a lot. And so we are maintaining some level of balancing, but honestly, I can't say like it can be, like it's business. So there are certain plus and minuses will happen.
Okay. So I think that's the end of our little evening here. Thanks a lot for being here. Please give them a round of applause. I think. So let's keep this momentum. I'll hand it back to Vishal, and he'll just wrap up the evening, and we'll continue networking.